Merritt Corbin rode up to Judah Vane's porch at 10 in the morning, with a folder of deed papers strapped to her saddle and a 6-year-old boy sitting behind her, and she got straight to the point. "Mr. Vane," she said, before she was fully off the horse, "I have a business proposal, and I have 6 weeks to make it work, so I'll thank you not to make me pretty it up." Judah Vane had been mending a length of tack on the top step. He set it down. He looked at her, a straight woman in a plain brown riding dress, dust to the eyes, wedding band still on her left hand, and then at the small boy behind her, and then back at her. "Ma'am, you know my late husband was Robert Corbin," she said. "You know he took up 160 acres on the Cut Bank Draw. You know he died last September at the rail camp, before we ever proved up. You know the territorial land agent has told me a widow cannot prove up a homestead alone in this county. He's given me until the 1st of July, and then the parcel reverts. My son and I have nowhere else to go, and no other prospects. So I am here." She stopped. She squared her shoulders, as if she were about to catch something thrown. "I need a husband's name on that deed. For 13 months. Long enough to prove up. In return, I will keep your house through this coming winter, and any winter after that you like. I understand your housekeeper left in March. I will cook. I will mend. I will board your crew when they come. I will take the east room. I will make no claim on you. When the deed is proved up in mine, I will sign a paper that returns to you the standing to end the marriage. You will keep your name and your ranch and your peace. I will keep my land and my boy." The boy behind her was staring at Judah Vane with round gray eyes. Judah rose from the step. He was a lean, dark-haired man of 34, with a mouth that had forgotten a good deal of laughter. He said, "That's a considerable proposal, Mrs. Corbin. May I ask why me?" "Because you are the nearest ranch, and I know your reputation, and I need a plain man. And because your Sarah lies in the Cut Bank churchyard, and my Robert lies 6 graves west of her, and I thought a widow and a widower could speak straight to each other without embarrassment." He looked at her for a long moment. "Come in," he said, "please." Inside, at his plank table, she laid out her papers in 3 neat piles. The deed, the proving up notice from the agent, a 1-page contract she had written herself and signed and dated on the ride. He read the contract, twice. "Mrs. Corbin," he said, "this is more careful than a Chicago lawyer's. I have no wish to be a burden to you, Mr. Vane. I have less wish to be a fool. Would you take coffee?" "I would." He poured. He set a plate of hard biscuits between them. The boy came in and stood at his mother's elbow. She said, "This is my son, Wren. Wren, this is Mr. Vane." Wren gravely offered his hand across the table. Judah shook it as gravely. "Mr. Vane," said the boy, "do you have a dog?" "I do. 2. "Are they friendly?" "They are." "Then I approve," said the boy, and climbed onto the bench and took a biscuit. Judah looked at Merritt. His mouth moved half an inch. She did not smile back. She was too tightly wound, but she nodded. He said, "The house has been quiet since Sarah. It is a large house, and it has not felt like it since. I do not sleep much. I do not want a wife, Mrs. Corbin. But that is not the same as saying I do not want a household. I have missed a household. If you will keep this practical, and if you will be plain with me, and if the boy is welcome to underfoot, I will do what you ask. We will ride to town this afternoon. The circuit judge will be at the courthouse until Thursday." She let out a breath she must have been holding since Fisher's Creek. "Thank you, Mr. Vane." "Judah," he said, "if we are to be a household." "Merritt," she said. They rode into town at noon. They signed the marriage license before the judge at 3. They signed the deed transfer in the land office at 4. They rode back at dusk with her belongings in the back of his wagon, and Wren asleep against her shoulder. She moved into the east room that night. He kept the west. The house was very large and very quiet, and both of them, in their separate rooms, lay awake a long time listening to it. May turned to June, June to July, July to August. Merritt set the house right. She scrubbed the flagstones. She oiled the wood. She hung fresh curtains. She learned to bake in a stove that was 2/3 the size of her own, and had a temper. She learned the cross fences of Judah's 4 sections. She learned the names of the boys who worked the brand: Deke, Whitcomb, Old Saipe. She learned to smile at them because they missed a woman's presence in the house, and she was practical about that too. Wren followed Judah everywhere. From the second morning, when Judah had let the boy sit on the fence and hand him nails, Wren was Judah's shadow. Judah cut him a small whittling knife and taught him to make a lopsided horse. He set him behind the saddle on Old Roan and rode him out to see the herd. He answered every question Wren asked, and there were a great many of them. Merritt watched and did not say anything. At supper, they talked about the day's work. Slowly, over weeks, they began to talk about other things. His Sarah, who had died in childbirth 3 years past, and had taken the baby with her. Her Robert, quick and hopeful, dead in a rail camp accident in his 29th year. She showed him the last letter Robert had written her. He read it and put it back in her hand and said, "He loved you." She said, "Yes." He said, "It shows in the way you carry yourself. A man loved you well. That is a good thing to see." She had not expected that. She looked at her plate for a long time. Then she said, "Thank you, Judah." At the end of August, he took her out to the aspens by the fence line, where Sarah lay. He had marked the grave with a plain fieldstone. Merritt laid a small handful of prairie yarrow on it. Judah stood a long time looking at nothing. Then he said, "I have not brought a person here since I laid her here." She did not say anything. There was nothing to say. Riding back, she thought, and did not say, that she was in a place she had not planned to be, and could not name it. In October, the crew rode in from the fall roundup and boarded a fortnight at the ranch. Merritt fed 9 men 3 times a day and never complained. And Old Sipe told Judah at the end of it that Mrs. Vane had bones of steel and hands of an angel, and if Judah did not know it, he was blind. Judah said nothing. He did know it. That night, when the crew was asleep in the bunkhouse and Wren was asleep in the east room, Judah walked out onto the porch to smoke a pipe he did not usually smoke. Merritt came out too, drying her hands on her apron, and stood beside him at the rail. "Thank you for boarding them," he said. "It has been 10 years since this ranch had a proper table set for a roundup crew." "You are welcome," she said. "Mrs. Corbin." He stopped. He said, "Merritt." "Yes. When we prove up next summer, do you plan to move back to your homestead? Or," she said, "I do not know. There is time." He said, "Yes." Neither of them moved for a long time. Then the wind came up off the draw, and she shivered a little, and he took off his coat and put it around her shoulders, and did not touch her, and went back inside. She stood on the porch a while longer with his coat around her, and put her hands in the sleeves that were much too long, and did not know what to think. The blizzard came on the 14th of December. Judah had ridden out at first light to bring in a heifer calf that had strayed up to the ridge shelter with the storm coming on. He'd told Merritt he would be back by dark. He had said, "Don't wait supper," and gone. By 4 in the afternoon, the world was white. By dark, the wind was screaming, and the snow was moving sideways, and she could not see the barn from the kitchen window. She kept Wren by the stove, reading a picture book she had borrowed from the schoolmistress in town. She made a plate of stew and set it on the back of the range to keep warm. At 8, he had not come back. She put Wren to bed and told him a firm, calm story about how Judah had probably taken shelter at the line shack, and she kept telling it after she left the room, because if she said it enough, she would believe it. At 10, she took her old mare Doe out of the barn and threw a saddle on her and strapped a barn lantern to the strap across her own chest and pulled Judah's spare coat around herself. She did not know what she was doing. She knew if she did not go, she would sit in the kitchen the rest of her life and wonder what she should have done. She followed the ridge trail because there was no other way to go. The wind hit her sideways and she rode with her head down and let Doe pick her way. She had gone 3 miles when Doe stopped and would not go on. "What?" Merritt said. "What is it, girl?" Doe whickered. A head in the white something moved. Merritt slid off. She led the mare forward. She held the lantern up. Judah Vane was crawling on his knees in the snow. His horse Roan lay dark against the drift some yards behind him. His left leg was twisted the wrong way at the knee. He was not making any noise. He was crawling, doggedly, one knee then the other, toward the line shack, because he did not know how to stop. "Judah," she cried. He looked up. His face was so white the wind couldn't add to it. "Merritt." She dropped to her knees beside him. She got her arm under his arm and heaved him upright. He gave a small, tight sound of pain. She got him against Doe. He could not swing his leg over. She braced her whole weight against him and lifted, and he got his good leg across the saddle and hung there. "Hold on to the horn," she said. "Do not let go. Do not let go of the horn." "Roan," he said. "Roan." "Roan is done," she said. "I am sorry. Judah, hold the horn." She led Doe home through the storm. It took 2 hours. She did not know how she found the yard. She only knew, after, that she had. She got him off the mare and into the kitchen. She peeled off his frozen coat and gloves and boots. She wrapped him in blankets in the chair by the stove. She stoked the stove up hot enough to bake bread. She warmed broth and got a cup into him. She got whiskey into him. She looked at the knee and set it, as she had watched her father set knees on lambs when she was a girl. He was too far gone to swear. He made a small sound and passed out. She put her cheek against his cheek, and it was warm again by then. She sat back and cried for a minute in silence, because she could not spare more time than that. She heated water and washed his hands and his face. She sat by his chair the rest of the night. He woke at 3 in the morning. He looked at her across the kitchen. He said, "You came out." "Yes. I would have died out there." "You would have." He was quiet a long time. He said, "The bargain has not been a bargain in my heart since October, Merritt." She looked at him. She said, "It has not been in mine since August." He put his hand out on the table. She put hers on top of it. They did not say anything else for a while. In the morning the storm was gone, and the world was silent. Wren came into the kitchen and stopped and looked at his mother's hand on Judah's, and considered it, and said, "So we are staying, Mama." Merritt said, "Yes, my love, we are staying." Wren said, "Good. Judah, may I see if the dogs are all right?" Judah said, "Please do, and check Doe." Wren pulled on his coat and went. Merritt went to the drawer of the sideboard and took out a leather portfolio and took the papers out of it, the contract she had written, the signed dissolution clause. She set them on the table. She looked at Judah. He looked at her. She lifted the lid of the stove and put the papers in the fire. They caught and curled and went to smoke. He stood up on his good leg and put his arm around her. "Merritt Vane," he said, "I take you not for a bargain, for a life." She put her hand against his chest. "Judah Vane," she said, "I take you the same." They proved up the homestead the next July. Merritt's name held the deed and Judah's name held the marriage, and the land agent tipped his hat and rode on. They kept both places. Judah built a small cabin at the corner of the Cutbank Draw for Merritt's mother, who came out in August with a trunk of quilts and a canary in a wire cage. At sundown of the day they finished the cabin. Judah walked Merritt out to the corner of the homestead where the fence lines met, and stood a while looking out at the yellow grass turning gold in the low sun. Wren was running with a stick, chasing a shadow. Doe was cropping grass along the fence. Judah put his arm around Merritt's waist. "We lied to get here," he said. "You know that." "I do. I don't know when it stopped being a lie. Neither do I." They stood in silence a while. She said, "Judah, I would not trade this year for any life a truthful woman might have had." He turned her toward him and put his rough hand along her cheek and did not say anything for a long moment. Then he said, "Merritt, I am not a man who says a great deal, so I will only say it once. I love you, as long as I live." She put her hand over his. "I love you," she said, "as long as I live." Behind them, Wren came running back through the tall grass, breathless and grinning, hollering something about a jackrabbit. Judah laughed, the plain, worn-in laugh of a man who had learned again how to. Merritt tucked herself under his arm. The three of them walked back through the field together in the last of the light. home to a house they had made from a piece of paper and a hard winter, and one long ride through the snow. And Merritt Corbin Vane, who had ridden up 13 months before with a folder of deeds and no other prospects, thought as she went that she had signed her name that day to a bargain, and had somehow, in the good slow way of a good slow country, ended up signing it to a whole life.